episode 5
of the
Cricket Riff and Banger podcast.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Faye.
We're here today having another little band interview. Could you please introduce yourself? Tell us what band you're in and what your role is.
I'm Nathan. I am the vocalist for Ghostsmoker.
Great band.
Thank you.
So, how long have you been in the scene, and have you got any other bands you're in or projects?
I don't have any other band. I can only handle sort of one thing at a time. I'm not good at multitasking. The other members in my band have 700 bands that they're in, but I just can't fathom.
Yeah.
I can't be stretched that thin. I've been in the band since I want to say early to late September 2021. So pretty much dead on 3 years. The scene, as in the Melbourne music scene, I look at not long.
Yeah.
I moved over here from Perth probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I spent probably 3 or 4 years of that settling in, and I had some I had some mental health issues that I was dealing with at the time, and some life circumstances that kind of sort of stifled creativity. I'd probably say when I joined Ghostsmoker was when I started really paying attention to the Melbourne music scene, and started checking out other bands in the heavy sort of genres, doom, metal. So 3 or 4 years.
Nice.
What are some of your favourite Australian bands right now?
It depends what day it is, but
Good answer.
there's one in particular that I've been listening to non-stop at the moment. They're called Bolt Gun from Perth. Very heavy, foreboding, but they've got these sections where you can just sort of, just sort of vibe out and sort of zone out and kind of sit there in quiet contemplation for minutes at a time. I kind of wish I knew about them when I was in Perth, because I think they've been around since 2014 or something. But other bands, Mountain Wizard Death Cult, of course Issur and Mammon's Throne, and Ore, and there's so many, Goat Shaman, just so many awesome metal bands going around at the moment in Australia.
Yeah, we're pretty spoiled.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Australian bands, are there any favourites that you've got that are maybe no longer around?
I'm gonna have to go with Blood Duster. Just a little bit because of nostalgia purpose. I was 16 when I first heard them. Someone gave me a burnt CD with a bunch of different Australian bands, metal bands on it. I don't remember who else was on it, but I certainly remember Porn Store Stiffy by Blood Duster. And we got to, record the EP and the album with Jason Fuller from Blood Duster, so that was kind of like a full circle, very surreal sort of moment in time for me. I still go back to every so often. The album. Yes.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
So,
Nice. Great answer. Probably my favourite answer to that question we've had so far, to
Thank
be
you.
honest.
Get back together, Blood Duster.
yeah.
This is the pitch. Just
Yeah.
get Blood Duster back together.
Reunion.
Yeah, we're
all
trying
of us
to,
are
yeah.
happy. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Maybe we can make that happen. We probably can't, but what is your
tried.
favourite Melbourne venue? And that's either to attend or play.
Oh, it kind of changes. To play, the last couple of shows we've done at Shot Kickers have been awesome. The sound, the lighting, the fact that you're not playing on top of each other on the stage. It's just good vibes. And to attend, I would say I like some of the bigger venues we have here, like the Forum and Max Watts. We haven't had the opportunity to play those venues yet, but hopefully that's around the corner. Maybe, I don't know, a bit of a bucket list. Who knows?
Oh, that's really cool venues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're spoilt for venues here, and yeah, it's kind of a shame that some are sort of on the brink of closing, and some have closed. Shout out the Bendy for the recent reopening. We're looking forward to playing that. We do have a show coming up there that hasn't been announced, but I'll leave that for later. But yeah, we've got so many cool venues. I just hope that we can keep this many awesome venues that host, bands that kind of are at, a particular level that just want to get out there and share their music.
Mm-hmm. Keep going to gigs. Keep
Yep.
buying
Yep.
merch.
Support your
local
where
scene.
you can.
Get out there.
Buy some merch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, please buy merch, man.
Ghostsmoker's merch is sick. I can attest
Oh,
to
thanks.
that.
Yeah, I also have a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. We take pride in our merch.
You can tell.
It
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah, and I'm not disparaging any bands that choose to print on Gildan, but we are AS Colour all the way for any listeners out there who don't want to feel like they're wearing sandpaper on their body. I'm just kidding. It's a pretty known fact about me that I'll look at a merch desk and I'll ask every band what they're printing on, and if it's not AS Colour, I can't part with my money, unfortunately.
It makes a difference to
The quality
fit.
is great.
Yeah.
It's-
For me, Gildan just rubs me the wrong way, like literally and figuratively.
We like what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a difference.
Yeah, it all matters.
It does.
Yeah. So your merch is sick. All the designs are awesome. So what's the process like for you with merch design?
Yeah, so I tend to organize most of that, and I just reach out to artists that I like, and we work within a specific budget, but we're also not sort of being cheap with it. We want, our merch represents us. And I like the fact that we're known for having sick merch. Like, it's a cool thing. And it's hard as a band to fund these things. So the sicker it is, the more people are going to buy it. Like, even if they, only kind of like your band, they're kind of like, yeah, they were pretty good. But the shirt's sick. I'm going to buy it. So yeah, I tend to just go for artists that do illustration work really well. A particular style of line work always attracts me. Just depends. We're always on the lookout for cool designs, mostly through Instagram and things like that.
So you're in the process of writing a new record?
We've written it.
Yeah. How did that
It's
all go?
done. Yeah, it's all done. We recorded it in February. It's just a waiting game at this point. When you release it through a label, generally you're waiting for vinyl, and there's long waits. Not as long as it used to be, but at least a few months. And you've also got to keep in mind that the label has other releases that they need to focus on as well. So yeah, we're just patiently waiting to release it, but it's all done. Yeah.
Nice. And the label was Art is Catharsis, was it?
Yes.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So shout out Lachlan from Artist Catharsis. One of my sort of favorite Australian labels, just because, and the reason we chose it was because of the fact that they just have so many different types of musicians and artists on that label. It's eclectic. We had a couple of offers from, I consider most labels in Australia to be great at what they're doing. They put in a lot of work, and so we had some discussions with different labels, but at the end of the day, we chose to wait a bit longer to release the album just because we really identify with what Artist Catharsis is doing, with how they support the underground scene here and abroad, and just the different types of you'll get some folk stuff, you'll get some Bolt Gun, as I mentioned before, release some stuff on there, and they're fucking heavy as shit. Like so stoked to be releasing it through them.
Can you share any musical or lyrical themes that come out in this album?
Yeah, so I wrote the lyrics for this album not long after I finished the lyrics for our EP, and the EP is sort of centered on grief around losing a loved one or someone close to me that I had a very complicated relationship with. And it just so happens that a couple of years later, another person close to me who I had a similar relationship with passed away. And it just kind of deals with the anger and resentment I've felt for these people, despite the fact that they're supposed to be the sort of closest people in the world to me. So I've kind of stuck with what I know, because for me the lyrics are a way for me to vent and sort of make sense of what I'm feeling. And if they didn't appear in any of these songs, they would just be things that I wrote to help me mentally sort of get through it. Musically, I don't play an instrument, so but I know that so we went for a bit more of a sludgier sound with this album. So we didn't erase the Stoner Doom influences completely, but it's definitely a bit heavier and a bit sludgier. And we're all 80s or 90s kids, so you'll hear influences from 80s and 90s horror soundtracks and things like that, and because we've got some sort of lo-fi ethereal elements in the album as well.
Well, what was the most memorable part of recording the record for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think finishing it was probably pretty memorable. It's during the recording, unfortunately our drummer Braden's father passed away, like literally while we were recording. He had just finished his drums, and I think the day after is when he got the news. And I'm just super proud of the fact that we, obviously Braden was dealing with that, and we wanted to be there for him, emotionally, or however he needed us to be there for him. But we made a decision between the rest of us to finish the album, in tribute to him and our friendship, but also to his father, who he was super close to. So the fact that we got it done, I'm just so proud that we were able to do that for him, and obviously for us as well. But yeah, it was, it's not, if I could change it, I would, but it happened, and we just decided to do our best with it, and I'm just so happy we got to finish it, despite the worst thing that could possibly happening.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sentiment as well.
Yeah. Shout out to Braden and his father. The album is in tribute to Braden's father, Rob. His strength and quite honestly, like, his disposition throughout it all was pretty impressive. It's kudos to Braden.
Definitely.
It's tough.
Definitely. It sounds like it was a pretty tough record to record for all of you, but it sounded like all of you being together through the whole thing probably made so much sense to just finish things if Braden was okay with it. Sorry to hear about the loss. I remember when Braden announced the news, and yeah, it sounded like having a lot of friends and family around to support him was what he needed, and he just kept drumming, which is what he needed to do. It's what he knows how to do. Was there a particular track? It sounds like the whole record was probably towards the end quite difficult or challenging to finish. Was there a track in particular that was also a bit of a challenge to get through?
I can speak for myself. You're right. It was, it obviously took a turn halfway through. But even then, because the lyrics are so close and personal to me, at times I was sort of struggling to sort of manage my emotions versus getting the job done. So there's a particular song called Haven where it's a bit lyrically, it's a bit more direct in its anger to its subject, and you may be able to pick it up if you listen to it, but there's times where I sort of quiver in what I'm saying. But I just decided at the time I wasn't going to redo the vocals for that, and I wasn't going to ask for them to be edited or chuck some reverb over it or whatever, because it just that was the natural take. That was how it turned out, and I think that ultimately makes it better. It was hard. There's a bit near the end of the song where I do a more sustained scream, like a longer one. And you can definitely hear the quiver throughout that. But yeah, technically it was a bit harder than the others, and just emotionally it was a bit draining, that one.
But leaving it in its most organic form is probably the best for the record.
For me, yeah. Some people might disagree and want everything to be perfect. And I don't disagree a lot of the times, but it just didn't feel right for me in that moment to just go in there and go, oh, actually, can I just redo that? Because, I wasn't emotionally stable enough during that period. But it is what it is. And, I'm pretty happy with it. So.
Great. Do you have a name for the record that you're willing to share with us?
We do. We haven't officially announced it, but why not? It's called Inertia Cult.
And what does that name mean to you guys?
It's basically, it relates to the lyrical themes, which is kind of being stuck with certain emotions that you're almost too stubborn to really change. And then just one, large traumatic event kind of shifting those emotions a little bit. It's kind of like, you're stuck in a depression loop or a loop of sadness. And yeah, you don't want to get out of that. You do want to get out of it, but you don't know how to necessarily. And yeah, it's just about, and people might be able to relate to that, where you're kind of stuck in that same loop, and just not having that sort of one thing that takes you out of it.
Like a release.
Yeah, it's in my case it was the death of a family member, and I had certain emotions tied to that family member, and the death of that person kind of sort of changed the way I felt about them a little bit. And I think, a lot of people are kind of stubborn in how they feel about certain things. So it just felt like a bit of a cult, just everybody is kind of like, we feel this way and that's it. Nothing's going to change that. And then you have this one thing that comes along and you look at things differently.
So your next gig coming up is in October at the
Yes.
Old Bar.
This.
on the 4th of October, on the Friday, with 100 Years War, Eaten by Rats, and I'm going to try my best, Klavier Krieger?
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Cool,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, sweet.
You
All
got it
right,
right,
we
yeah.
got it. And then the next gig after that is the Incarnate tour.
Yeah, so we've got the old bar coming up. I think it's Eaten by Rats' first show, which is exciting. I've listened to their EP and it's pretty dope. So looking forward to seeing that live, and just very humbled and honoured that they asked us to headline that one. So that's very nice of them. And then the Incarnate tour. So we're releasing a single October 11th, and that's just a tour to promote it and celebrate it. And I'm very, very fucking excited about it.
We're pretty excited too.
Oh, thanks.
We will be there.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Good.
You've also got the Incarnate tour coming up.
Yep,
Can
very
you tell
excited.
us who's playing and where you're playing and what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's just a tour. We're releasing a single October 11th called Incarnate. And we're going on a bit of a promo tour for that. So we start that one off November 1st at the Bergie Band Room. That's our first time playing there. Very excited. That's with Giant, Myriad Drone, and coming from Sydney, Mountain Wizard Death Cult, which they're one of my favourite Australian bands going at the moment.
Great
and really
lineup.
good dudes. Then we go to Sydney on November 16th, and we're playing at the Burdekin Hotel again with Mountain Wizard Death Cult. They've agreed to jump on to that one as well. We originally had Soma Plume on for that show, but unfortunately they had something else very, very important on that day. So Mountain Wizard Death Cult have jumped on to replace them, and we've got Awe and Wicked Sisters on that one as well. We've got a November 28th show at the Northcote Social Club, but that's a little bit hush-hush at the moment because it's not a headline show for us. It's something else. We'll wait for the band that's putting that on to announce that. So that's TBA at the moment. And then 7th of December at the Crown and Anchor in Adelaide with Jaguar God, who are releasing a single that day as well, and Sundowner and Bone Reaper. So yeah, very excited.
What a
gonna be
collection
awesome.
of bands. Yeah.
I think we really put it on for the single tour, so we're gonna have some trouble topping that for the album tour. See how we go.
All right. Thank you so much for having a chat with us.
No worries.
Yeah,
thank you for
thank
having me.